Viktor Frankl was liberated in April 1945. He had survived 4 concentration camps: Theresienstadt, Auschwitz-Birkenau, Kaufering III, and Turkheim. He walked out of imprisonment into a world that was slowly, painfully reassembling itself from catastrophe. And he walked out with almost nothing, or so it would have appeared to anyone looking at his material situation. His wife Tilly had died at Bergen-Belsen. His mother had been murdered at Auschwitz. His father had died at Theresienstadt of starvation and pneumonia. His brother Walter and Walter's wife had also perished. A manuscript he had worked on for years, a draft of what would become The Doctor and the Soul, had been confiscated on the day of his arrival at the first camp, and he had painstakingly reconstructed its ideas on scraps of paper throughout his imprisonment, only to lose those too. His health was severely compromised. He was emaciated, ill, and alone in a world that had tried, systematically and with bureaucratic thoroughness, to destroy him. And yet Frankl carried something out of the camps that the camps could not confiscate. It was not optimism. That would have been shattered long before liberation. It was not innocence or the comfortable assumptions about human goodness that many people carry into adulthood. Those too had been tested beyond recovery in their naive forms. What Frankl carried was something harder and more durable than either: a confirmed, experientially grounded knowledge that meaning is possible in any human circumstance. That the human being, even under the most sustained and deliberate assault on its dignity and its will to live, retains a dimension of freedom that nothing external can fully extinguish. He had theorized this before the camps. He had argued for the will to meaning in his psychiatric practice, in his lectures, in the early drafts of his manuscripts. But he had not known it the way he knew it when he walked out of Turkheim in 1945. The difference between knowing a thing as a theory and knowing it as a lived reality is the difference between a map and the territory. Frankl had crossed the territory. He knew it in his body, in his survival, in the memory of specific moments: a kindness extended by a fellow prisoner, a prayer offered in total darkness, a thought about his wife that had kept him moving through a frozen morning march, that had demonstrated beyond argument that the human spirit has resources that circumstance cannot fully account for. He also carried a knowledge of the opposite, of what happens when meaning collapses entirely. He had seen prisoners surrender inwardly long before they died physically. He had recognized the characteristic signs of what he called the giving up: the refusal to get up, the fixed gaze, the cigarette smoked rather than traded for food. He had watched the will to meaning extinguish and seen what followed. The knowledge of both possibilities, the survival of meaning and its collapse, became the twin foundations of everything he would teach for the next 50 years. Frankl returned to Vienna and began immediately to write and lecture. His energy in the immediate post-liberation period was remarkable and, he admitted, partly driven by a sense of obligation. He had survived when others had not. The question that confronted him was the same question logotherapy places at the center of human life: not what do I want from life, but what does life want from me? The answer that came back was clear. He had seen things that needed to be testified to. He had developed ideas that needed to be shared. There was work waiting for him, and the existence of that work was itself a form of meaning that the camps had been unable to destroy. In 1945, he dictated the book that would become Man's Search for Meaning in 9 days. He described the process as one of compulsion rather than ambition. He felt the need to write the book as a duty, not as a career move. The book was published in German in 1946 and has since been translated into dozens of languages and sold tens of millions of copies. It is regularly listed among the most influential books of the 20th century. What he carried out of Auschwitz was not a message of triumph or inspiration in any simple sense. It was a testimony to a specific and difficult truth: that human beings are capable of finding meaning even in conditions designed to eliminate every other resource. And that this capacity, this last, inalienable freedom to choose one's attitude, is not a comfort. It is a responsibility. The most demanding one there is. Subscribe to The Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.